A 5-member panel of the Supreme Court held that the issue of who is the National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party borders on the internal affairs of a political party which is not justiciable. Now, the Supreme Court has nullified the judgments of the Court of Appeal and Federal High Court, which sacked Senator Samuel Anyanwu as National Secretary of the PDP. Anyanwu approached the Apex Court to challenge the appeal court judgment, which sacked him as the PDP National Secretary on the grounds that the court lacks jurisdiction on internal party affairs. Justice Jamilu Tukur, who delivered the lead judgment of the Supreme Court, consequently struck out the judgment of the trial court delivered in October 2024 and also set aside the majority judgment of the Court of Appeal, which had in December affirmed the sack of Anyanwu as PDP's National Secretary. Justice Tukur subsequently affirmed the minority judgment of the appellate court delivered by Justice Ekanem, which had nullified the judgment of the trial court on account of lack of jurisdiction. We continue with coverage of the emergency rule in Rivers State, where the Senate has approved President Bola Tinubu's proclamation of a state of emergency in Rivers State following deliberations during a closed-door session. Now, the approval grants the president the authority to enforce emergency measures in the crisis-hit state, while also paving the way for mediation efforts to restore peace. Upon returning from the closed-door session, Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced the Senate's decision to approve President Tinubu's request for a state of emergency in Rivers State. Now, the enforcement of emergency measures, according to the Senate, will be subject to review at any time, but no later than 6 months. In addition, the House of Representatives has approved the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, along with the 6-month suspension of Governor Sim Fubara, his deputy, and all elected members of the Assembly, as announced by President Bola Tinubu. The seal of approval for the president's proclamation came via voice vote during Thursday's plenary that was presided over by the Speaker, Tajuddin Abbas.
Speaker of the House, Abbas Tajuddin, read the President's proclamation, which invoked Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, suspending the Rivers State Governor, his deputy, and members of the State House of Assembly following escalating political tensions. Following deliberations, lawmakers approved the request through a voice vote by the majority of the 243 members in attendance.
I wish, in view of the grave and urgent situation that has necessitated its issuance, to particularly commend this proclamation to the House of Representatives for consideration and approval in line with the Constitution.
However, the approval was not without concerns.
It is in the integrity and interest of this House, Mr. Speaker, for you to announce the quorum as we are seated, so that Nigerians will know that we are not circumventing the Constitution.
The President should be given opportunity to amend, retain the positions of declaration, but with review of the state of emergency at any given time.
Lawmakers also introduced key amendments to ensure flexibility and accountability in the implementation of the state of emergency.
I listened to Mr. President's proclamation, where he said that the sole administrator will be reporting to the Federal Executive Council. Mr. Speaker, I disagree, with that position.
I want the House to note that today's plenary is being attended by 243 members based on our attendance registers. Just for records, we are more than satisfied the requirement of this particular amendment. So, honorable colleagues, with your kind permission, I put the question. Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. There is have it.
Meanwhile, as events unfolded in the Green Chamber, proceedings in the Senate followed a similar path. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, read President Tinubu's correspondence referencing Section 305 of the Constitution, which grants the President the power to declare a state of emergency.
The main features of the proclamation are as follows: a declaration of a state of emergency in one state of the Federation, namely Rivers State.
Following this, Senate Majority Leader Okpeyemi Bamidele moved a motion to prioritize the President's request on the Senate's agenda.
That we reorder the agenda on the order paper to enable us take for the first order of the day, stating the proclamation. I so move, Mr. President.
A mild argument ensued when Bayelsa Senator Seriake Dixon raised a point of order, demanding that the Senate revert to Order 135 of its rules and enter a closed session to continue deliberations.
Let's not argue. I'm not arguing with you. I'm only saying, please allow me to preside. Allow me to preside.
The Senate eventually upheld the motion, after which the lawmakers entered an executive session. Upon returning from the closed-door session, the Senate approved the President's proclamation endorsing key resolutions.
The Senate further resolved that a committee to reconcile the warring factions in Rivers State should consist of eminent Nigerians. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the closed session?
With both chambers now aligned, focus shifts to the successful implementation of the state of emergency and its impact on restoring stability and reconciling aggrieved factions in Rivers State. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
We're now joined by Ankyo Briggs for more on developments in Rivers State. Ankyo Briggs is a human rights campaigner and an activist. Thank you so much, Ankyo, for joining us on the news. All right, so how does all the development in the state come to you? Like, what are your thoughts on everything that has happened so far? You know, first as an indigene of the state and also as a rights activist.
Look at how far we have come with this situation, political situation in Rivers State. I'm horrified at where we are today. We're at a situation where we woke up to the information, if you like, or we just got the information that a state of emergency has been declared in our state. Now, we do not believe that there is or was a need for a state of emergency to be declared in Rivers State. We do not believe that it is fair that the governor, the deputy governor, has been suspended, even including a major part of the agitators of this problem, including the FCT minister, who is a major part of this, and yet he was not suspended. So there is no fairness in the processes that has led up to the suspension. We see no reason yet why the deputy governor herself should be suspended. She was never mentioned at any time as part of the processes of the disturbance, political disturbance that was being fermented all the way from Abuja by the FCT minister, and that he was not suspended. If anything, the deputy governor should have been in line to be the person to be acting, if you like, while the governor is under suspension. And the way and manner in which the Senate and the House of Representatives conducted themselves is, in our view, is not representative of the desires and the will of the people of the Niger Delta. They were unconstitutional. We did not see that there were 253 members. We did not We did not see who voted and who didn't vote. And these are all our rights to know what our senators are doing at every single time in our name. And what went on yesterday, I mean, they had a voice yea or nay, and yet it seemed as if it was 100% yea, and yet we could see very clearly Saraki Dixon, a senator from Bayelsa, vehemently opposing the process. So he therefore definitely could not have voted yes after his opposition and the reasons for his opposition. We wonder whether all of this is because they want the deputy governor not to be in the place where he's rightfully has, because she's a woman.
Ankyo, if you can hear me now, speaking of, the deputy governor, being the person who should have, been in charge of Rivers State if, the governor, anything was to happen to the governor. Now, there are also fears regarding the whereabouts of both of them. That's the governor and also his deputy. Would love to hear what you think about, the fact that nobody actually has an idea of where they are at the moment.
A major thing for concern. A lot of people ordinarily have access to the governor, have access to the deputy governor. She's a member of the church that I attend. She's a worker in the church that I attend. I sit right behind the row that she sits. She's a deaconess, and so we're both workers in that church. I will find out if I see her on Sunday, whether she's actually, it's possible to see her and speak to her or not. But yes, it is a thing of concern when you cannot speak to the deputy governor if you used to have access to her, and to the governor if you used to have access to him. This is Nigeria. Anything is possible. So people dragging people on social media and all of that, it's not the point. The point is, if people are saying they have not seen her or heard from her or the governor, I think that we should be able to see them and hear from them.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ankyo, for speaking to us and also for your time on this. And now we move on to Kogi State, where the Federal High Court sitting at Lokoja on Thursday, 20th March 2025, granted an interim injunction restraining INEC, its staff, agents, privies, or assigns from receiving, accepting, or acting on any petition containing alleged fictitious signatures or purported members of Kogi Central Senatorial District, and conducting any referendum upon such petition for the purpose of initiating a recall process of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan as Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, pending the determination of the motion on notice to the same effect. Now, the court granted the application following an ex parte application for interim injunction supported by an affidavit of extreme urgency, together with other court processes sworn to by Anebe Jacob Ogirima for himself and 4 others who are registered voters and constituents of Kogi Central Senatorial District in Kogi State. Now, the application was moved by Smart Mwachimere, Esquire of West Idaosa, SAN, and Co. The case has been adjourned to 6th May 2025 for report of service and further mention. A coalition of opposition political leaders has hinted at a political merger ahead of 2027 general elections, while strongly opposing the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State. Now, the political leaders, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Governor of Kaduna State Nasser El-Rufai, former Secretary of the Government of the Federation Babachir Lawal, and some Labour Party leaders. News Central correspondent Amadine Uyi has more.
It was a reaction to the declaration of a state of emergency by political stakeholders called from the different opposition political parties in the country. Many of them qualified to be regarded as the nation's political elite. Howbeit, from several opposition political parties, have described the action by the president as unconstitutional.
This action is not only unlawful, but also a clear subversion of democracy and imposition of autocratic federal control over a duly elected state government.
Former chieftain of the All Progressives Congress and former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, says previous actions by past governments have not been able to stand the test of the judiciary, thus setting a precedent which runs contrary to the proclamation by the president.
In 2006, the Supreme Court of Nigeria gave a judgment clearly stating that even though by then Daria had been restored to office, but lashed the Obasanjo administration and said that under no circumstances would the emergency provisions in Section 305 be used to remove any elected official. No legislation or constitutional amendment has changed that, so that is the law. No one, no person or authority can remove an elected official, whether governor, deputy governor, or member of the legislature.
The former vice president of the country, on behalf of those present, demanded an immediate reversal of the pronouncement by President Bola Tinubu.
We call on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to immediately revoke this unconstitutional proclamation and reinstate the elected governor, deputy governor, and state assembly of Rivers State. We urge the judiciary to act swiftly in striking down this proclamation, as it sets a dangerous precedent that could be used to arbitrarily remove any governor in the future.
The group, also known as the concerned leaders and political stakeholders in the country, also hinted that ahead of the 2027 general elections, they will consolidate their thoughts and opinions so as to serve as a viable opposition against the current APC-led government. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
For more on this development in Rivers State and also the new coalition, I'm joined by Taiwo Olakbade. He is a political analyst and publisher. You're welcome, Taiwo, to the news.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's have your reaction, to the approval of the state of emergency in Rivers State by both the Green and Red chambers, especially in the Green chamber, where the issue of quorum generated a little bit of tension.
Right. Thank you very much. Number one, let me start by saying that the People's Democratic Party should be blamed for what has eventually turned out by the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State. And I say this because the leadership of the party allowed the crisis to fester for too long. And at a point when we are also asking questions, they said it was an internal affairs of the party. And that is very common with our politicians. They will say, no, don't interfere. We know how we can use, our mechanism to find solution to our problem. So the People's Democratic Party should, number one, agree to the fact that they allowed this to happen. And they allowed it to fester for too long. The crisis between Governor Fubara and former governor of the state, Nyesom Wike, should have been resolved amicably for a very long time. But all of them, taking sides and looking the other way around. And that's what has led us to where we are today. And going back to your question, number one, there is also a lacuna in our constitution. I'm not a lawyer. But I've also listened to arguments of lawyers, say Mr. Femi Falana, Libras Oshoma, Mr. GT Ogunye, all of them, they are in unison saying that what the president did was wrong, that the president does not have the capacity per se to remove elected representatives of the people, be it the governor, the deputy, and also members of Rivers State House of Assembly. And the lacuna that I've also identified in that section 305 of our Constitution 1999 as amended is stated categorically that the president has the power, right, to declare a state of emergency, but it left it open-ended, they call it. It was also not explicit that when that declaration is made, then what comes next? There was no, we can argue it. The only thing that section says is that the president, when there are crises and the likes, the president has the power to declare a state of emergency. We can still come back to how that can also be declared, whether what the president has done in this regard followed the due process in that declaration. But the major concern now is suspending the elected representatives of the people. Coming back what we saw yesterday at National Assembly, of course, many Nigerians were so dissatisfied with the way it turned out yesterday at National Assembly, particularly the House of Reps, like you just also rightly pointed out, because in a matter of this nature, matter of national importance, there is nothing stopping the legislative house, be it the Senate or House of Reps, for us to know if indeed they are in support of that declaration. But to go the way of voice votes that you won't know who has voted for or who has voted against is sincerely left to be desired. Because ordinarily, what Nigerians were expecting, if indeed the two-thirds majority of National Assembly will give their approval, ratification to that proclamation, declaration by the president, should have been,
Taiwo,
I support, I disagree.
Oh, understandably. Now, let's quickly touch on, politics and the coalition of opposition political leaders, that have hinted at the possibility of a merger ahead of 2027 elections. Do you see this, as a reality, given the level of divergence, political views, held by some of the names involved in the coalition?
Well, sincerely, we saw some heavyweights when it comes to politics coming together to form this coalition. Fine. Sincerely, our constitutional democracy really deserve to have a viral opposition, a very strong opposition, so that they can keep those in government, they can serve as watchword, keep them on their toes. Fine. I sincerely agree. And if you also look at the way former presidents, the immediate past president, Muhammadu Buhari, came into power, it was because of the merger of some political parties, EMPP, CPC, ACN, and the likes. That was how they were able to wrestle power from the PDP after 16 years of rulership from 1999 to 2015. But the question I need to ask is, we saw what happened in 2019. Atiku was the presidential candidate of the PDP. Peter Obi was his running mate. I didn't been. They allowed the same, whether Atiku was president, Obi was vice, or Obi was president, Atiku was vice. In 2023, I say it, President Bola Tinubu would have been defeated.
All right.
He would have been defeated. So what they are doing now is what they're supposed to have done in 2003. But they say it's never too late, and it's better to be late than never. But let's keep watching and see how long this coming together relationship will last before the 2027 presidential election.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much, Taiwo, for your time and for speaking on this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, away from Nigeria and in Sudan, Army troops have successfully recaptured the presidential palace from the paramilitary rapid support forces after a fierce battle. A military source told newsmen that the army stormed the Republican Palace, reclaiming control after defeating the remnants of the RSF. Now, the paramilitary group had occupied the palace since April 2023. The recapture marks a significant development in the ongoing conflict between the Sudanese army and the RSF.
قواتنا بفضل الله وتوفيقه أفراد ومعدات العدو تدميرا كاملا، واستولت على كميات كبيرة من أسلحته ومعداته بالمناطق المذكورة. نهدي شعبنا الصابر هذه الانتصارات، كما نؤكد مضينا قدما بكل محاور القتال حتى يكتمل النصر بتطهير كامل بلادنا من دنس الميليشيا وأعوانها.
In other news from around the world, Britain's Heathrow Airport, Europe's busiest, was shut down early Friday for 24 hours after a major fire at an electricity substation cut power to the sprawling facility west of London. Now, airport authorities said they expect significant disruption over the coming days, with hundreds of flights and thousands of passengers affected. The airport operator said Heathrow is experiencing a significant power outage, and they also said in a statement on its website, adding it will be closed until just before midnight Friday. Passengers should not travel to the airport under any circumstances until the airport reopens. Online flight tracking service Flight Radar 24 said Heathrow's closure will affect at least 1,351 flights to and from the airport. Now, in the world of sports, Super Eagles head coach Eric Chelle has affirmed his team's readiness ahead of Friday's crucial 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Rwanda. The Malian tactician will lead Nigeria for the first time in a competitive match at the Amahoro Stadium in Kigali. With no wins in 4 qualifiers, the Super Eagles are desperate for victory, and Chelle emphasized hard work and discipline as key to success. Captain William Troost Ekong echoed the team's determination, saying that they trust the coach's plan.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you what our tactics are going to be. But yeah, of course, we have new ideas. And I think whenever you have a new manager for both teams, it's always a situation that players want to prove themselves, show themselves to the coach. They want to give their best side. So I think there's been a new level of focus. All the players respect the coach very much. We've seen what he did with the previous team. And like I said, we are just trying to understand as quickly as we could in 3 training sessions what is expected from us. So yeah, it's a work in progress, and yeah, hopefully it will be a continuous growth. But this first game will be a test straight away, maybe quite early in us working together. But I have, like I said, I have full confidence in the team. The team have confidence in the coach, and I think vice versa. And now it's just left for us to execute and do the job.
Every day, I just want to live with my guys. I just want that my guys are focused on this game, only this game now, and after that, we will see the other game.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Senator Samuel Anyanwu to return as National Secretary of the PDP as Supreme Court nullifies judgments that sacked him from office. We also told you that Cross Rivers government backs emergency rule in Rivers, disowns South-South governor's position as Fubara's team blames Wike for pipeline attacks. And finally, you heard that Sudanese army recapture presidential palace from the RSF after fierce battle. Remember, you may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.